Welcome to Thought Experiment Called Life. This is where unconventional thinkers and multi-passionate makers share their journey of creating meaningful lives, built on growth, creativity, and the courage to live on their own terms. I'm Greta, a musician, a martial artist, an herbalist, and a fellow traveler through this mystery we call life. Every other Tuesday, I bring you real conversations with rule breakers and path forgers. Subscribe on Substack for more resources, mindset, tools, and more.
I so want to reinforce the idea that you can start anything at any time in your life. And the idea of getting older, now that I'm getting older and reaching different milestones, I see what society says, especially for women, says around aging, and I ain't got no time for that. Mm-hmm. None of it. And also, I have no time for, oh, if you haven't figured it out in your 20s or your 30s, it's over. No. I actually, when I was in any of my schooling, when there was somebody who was a few decades older than the rest of the group, I thought that was the badassest, what?
I got
the most badassery thing ever. Yeah. And I would like, because I started this chapter later, not really, but kind of later, and we saw Mom do it in a similar way, that's where we saw like, oh, we can do that. And I really want to reinforce that for people that like, if you want to do whatever you want to do, whenever you want to do it, go do it. And don't let society tell you anything else. Oh, I mean, society, we have a beef. We have a beef, woman.
You're Aquarius to your core. So, I mean, there you go. If you know astrology.
And my name, Alexandria, I found it means protector of humanity. Aww. So I always feel like, even though I feel like I'm a protector of like all the sentient beings, but yeah. So society, we can.
Yeah. No, I love that so much, and I think it's funny. You know, I'm around at the gym, like I'm the elder basically, right? So it's like, and then you people like turning 30, and they're like, I'm getting old, and I'm like, come on, don't listen. And honestly, 20s are really tough. 20s are like another form of adolescence in a way where you're just like, what the fuck is going on? It's your first real time that you're getting, like, I think of everything in cycles. It's like your first cycle to go through a bunch of new shit where you're like, it feels like it's the only time something is going to happen and the biggest time. And then once you get to your 30s, you've done a couple rounds. So it feels a little bit less like that. Yeah. And then now in 40s, it feels very, very liberating in that sense. It's, I love it. So it's really what you choose. And also, you know, even like just life is the affirmation for me that has been really helping is life is beautiful and I have time. And that helps me ground when I go like, oh my God, I don't know how to get X, Y, and Z done. You know, it helps me stop and look around and go, okay, my life is beautiful. Even if there are things that I'm really struggling with, that I've been struggling with for forever, my life is beautiful and I have time. And if I tell myself that, then I'm able to recognize the space. Whereas before it feels very constrictive. And I invite anyone to use that if that resonates, because it's just a nice, you know, you and I are very big. That was kind of, I think, how we got through a lot of times in our life where we had like little mantras and phrases that kind of helped keep us grounded. Yeah, I have a whole episode on a bunch of those things where it was just kind of like you just shit's hitting the fan and you're like, all is well, I am safe, everything is working out for my highest good, you know. Like,
I should not like it will come. Yeah. After like almost all, definitely my coaching sessions, but sometimes in my therapy sessions, and all my clients are just like, I know this phrase by now.
I got it. Yeah. And it's so helpful. It's so helpful because again, our mindset, like the more, I think I started to say this a minute ago, but the more that I am doing this podcast, like I had my kind of vision of why I wanted to start, and it is in that realm, but I find myself really wanting to talk about mindset and everybody's sort of approach to mindset, because the longer I've been here on earth, the more that I personally feel like our mindset is, and I don't mean to say is everything to put pressure on it, but it holds more power than we maybe are like taught, right? Like if you really are able to cultivate your mindset, and it's not something that happens, you know, a lot of times you're programmed with some bullshit mindset from your parents, from society, blah, blah, blah. So you have to like really work to do it, but it's a worthy journey.
Yes.
And then also if you have something like, any kind of neurodivergence or like Lyme disease, it's hard sometimes to actually get your thoughts to be clear enough to get your mindset to change.
Yeah.
So I understand all of that.
Yeah.
However, it's one of those things that it's a really worthy use of energy if you are feeling like you're in a chapter or in a season of your life where you are just like, feel like you've run out of options or vision for the future or whatever. Taking stock of the mindset that's going on, how you're speaking to yourself, the thoughts that kind of naturally arise, how people around you are speaking, and really just taking a moment to reflect on those things, and then finding tools and resources, which I talk about plenty of them, and I know you have them as well. And that's like, I think, such a big part of it. It's kind of like how what's the next like book for your journey? What's the next podcast episode? What's the next teacher? Like I have so many teachers that I love because different times in my life, I want to hear a different voice, maybe say something similar, but tell me a little bit differently. And yeah, and that is like for me, that's how I reprogram things a lot. I listen to a lot of different teachers. I read a lot of different books and teachings and things. And I try to examine things from all different angles, which has helped me be able to just have a much better mindset where I can enjoy my life no matter really what's going on, knock on wood, like, to an extent.
If you ask now, most parents of 7 to 14-year-olds are coming in and going, I just want my kid to feel good. I just want my kid to be confident. I just want them to believe in themselves. Yeah, I want them to be faster. Like I want that, but I want them to I want them to have fun. Like I'm actually hearing that more now than I've ever heard before. So the pressure, even though there are parents that are obviously, we call them now, it's not just helicopter, but there are bulldozer parents or snowplow parents that just mow everybody over to get their kids somewhere. But I think when you approach it, you're approaching it from that perspective of helping kids believe in themselves and create self-confidence. And by the way, when I had the training for warriors, that's all adult training. So we trained, the hurricane training was like, you're training them like MMA fighters. They sprint, you do 2 exercises, and it would be category 1 to 5 in hurricanes. And we would do story time with the parents, with the adults, and they would be upset if you didn't do it because they want to feel that. They want to feel what that belief means. When you have people coming to you and going, hey, I got off my antidepressants because of this. I got off high blood pressure medication because of this. And it makes you cry. I've had sessions where you're doing strategy sessions with adults and they're like, I can't believe what this has done for me. And the reality is you've set them up for success by believing in them. So for me, it's everybody has to, I think it's part of the human construct. Like we need others to believe in us so that we can believe in ourselves. But there's the key. You better believe in yourself.
Right.
As well.
Right.
So that's the transition, is that you've got people that believe in themselves, and you're a better parent, you're a better sibling, you're a better spouse, whatever that might be. So the majority of the population is not elite. I can tell you that right now.
Right. Right. Right.
They might think they are.
Right. Well, that's good. They're believing in themselves, right?
Yes.
I believe. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe they're like the elite version of themselves.
But I love that. That is absolutely a perfect way to put it. They are an elite level of themselves. They are better now than, what's the old saying? So you know this, but dojo literally means the path, or the path of the way. Mm-hmm. It's not a place that you fight. It literally, in Japanese, the do is the path, the jo is the way. They are finding their way. Yeah. And if you're a fighter, you're going to find your way like that. But everything we do is a dojo. Your office is a dojo because it's your path. It's your way. Your history with your illness is your path. You wouldn't be the person you are if you hadn't. It's terrible to say, like we both know this, but you'd be different probably.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah. Especially, it definitely as you are at to the 20 somethings, I'll be like, when you're here on Earth longer, that's how I say it. I'm like,
it's scary that you're saying that now, right?
When you've spent some time, many rotations of the sun. You just kind of, if you choose to look at it that way, which is again, a lot of what I talk about is a lot of just inviting people to look at things a little differently and be like, okay, I am today, I am who I am because of all of this, whatever happened. But truly, if you have gratitude towards the part, just like being in school, and we could, not the education system that maybe should be honored in that way, but having something that you wanted to learn, there are many times where it just sucks, right? But it's also part of it. And if you just kind of don't take it personally in that sense, that's what I had to do, is really change kind of how I thought about it, in the sense where I'm like, I'm not going to make it more dramatic than it needs to be. It is what it is, the highs and lows, just to sort of zen about it. It makes it a lot easier. And then you really can go like, oh, when shit happens, you really do start to look at things differently. I'll say I really start to look at things differently and go like, where are the areas that I'm learning from and building from? I saw this quote, I think I posted it a few weeks ago, and it was something to the effect of, if people are watching your life as a movie right now, the audience, like, what are they screaming to you right now? Like, they're like, you need to do whatever. And sort of having that bird's eye perspective to go, all right, what is it that I'm getting out of like learning from the situation? Or maybe I'm just enjoying the situation too, right? Maybe the good times we can just like soak that up as well,
Absolutely. There's no reason why you shouldn't.
So I was in a bad place about like 2013 was like, me and my family sometimes call it the worst year ever. And we don't dwell on it. It's just if it comes up.
Right.
It was like, people passed away. Like, I had to go start working at the warehouse after this successful music career. And, my wife was waiting a year to get hired to her dream job, and to this day never got it. And, that kind of, it was just like this one thing after another. Our son got sick, and it was like all this stuff. So I was sort of in, at work, to be honest, I found ways of enjoying this loading trucks thing that I was learning how to do. And I had loaded band vehicles my whole life, but this was like tractor trailers. So,
the heavy equipment ever. Yeah.
Yeah. And I would say things to the other guys at work, like, hey, if we hate our job, like, we're here more than we're home. So we're literally hating our lives. So let's try to enjoy this like as much as we can, And,
yeah.
And then eventually they put me in charge of the warehouse because I was way too positive, and they were like, oh, this guy motivates these guys. But it all started, I read like it really simple and, whatever thing. It was just, I was really unhappy. So I just started like Googling like how to be happy, like so simple, but like, that's all I had, and I saw this meme came up in the images when I did that. And it was like, the key to happiness is to be okay with whatever happens. And I was like, okay. Well, I can totally get that because I was used to like being pretty unhappy when something bad would happen. We had to stay late, or we had something got messed up at work and we had to redo the job. Like, and I was used to that being like, oh, this is the most horrible thing that could ever happen to me. But then I was like, what if I just am like, whatever, like it happened, I'm here, I am getting paid, so let's just keep going, and I started to do that, and that really changed everything for me. As simple as that is, like, I just stopped hating everything. Like, my mantras used to be like really bad, like just kill me or whatever, like not not completely dark, but more like dark humor, like
jaded,
like life sucks, that kind of. That's what I would say up until about 2015, and then I was like, I can't keep being miserable. Like, something has to change, and it was by changing my daily thoughts were what turned everything around, and eventually my guys in my warehouse were like, "You're the best boss ever. We're never gonna be able to get another job because you're so fun," and whatever. And I'm like, we're still loading the same damn trucks, we're still taking the trash out of all the offices, and all that stuff. But like, I just wouldn't let it be a bum out anymore. And so that it got to where I really didn't mind that job. Like it was like, I was like, I could do this forever and I'm not unhappy. But then I went, I was asked to do a few musical things, come and show up at a couple emo nights that they were having in New York City. And then I was asked to talk at a music conference in Colombia. And I'm sure I mentioned Colombia to you before, but I've been back 3 times. And that first trip changed the rest of my life, because I just was like sitting there with a guy from Venezuela, a guy from Chile, Colombians, every place in South America, and a guy from Canada, and someone from France. And I was having the best conversations I had in years. And I was like, how come I'm having more fun talking to these people than anyone I've had at work, who I love, all my work people. And I was like, oh, these are music people. Like, this is my tribe, And it hit me as soon as that hit me, and I was like, I have to quit my job as soon as I get home. I have no idea how I'm going to pay for anything, but what has to happen, and that's what that's what I did, and I quit, and at the end of January 2020, I was done at my job, and a month and a half later, COVID happened, and it was insane. And I was like, oh, wait a second, I don't have a job now. And I didn't qualify for a lot of unemployment because I quit my job, and so I was supposed to do a few tours and things like that and produce some bands, and everything just stopped. So it's like, oh wait, now what am I doing? So but that was okay, because I had said whatever, I'm okay with whatever happens. And I'm pretty good at like rationalizing myself back to, it not when I'm super upset, but like,
right.
I'm like this weird, I look at it in a nerdy way, I feel like, and I just go like, well, I guess I just got to keep doing it. And like, I really don't want to, but I'll go walk today, and go for walks in the woods, 3 times a week. And, I have time for it now. And, I go with a close friend of mine who, lives by himself, and it's his way of getting out of the house, my way of getting out of the house. And so, and then good things started happening all of a sudden. Like I was called to play in the band Say Anything. And next thing I knew, I went from like loading the trucks and thinking I would never, like literally thinking I would never play music again, to like 4 nights sold out at Bowery Ballroom in New York. And I'm like, what?
That's so awesome.
Yeah, it was amazing. And so it's been like, still like, even with that, like the night before the first show, I had a panic attack and had to go lay down in my room while the whole band was here at my house, like, and the crew, we were rehearsing in my studio. And I was like, guys, I can't see right now. And
oh no.
and I realized I was having a panic attack. But anyway, so it's not all, happy all every day. It's not easy, but like, I was just freaking out because I hadn't played a show like that in so long. I was playing with my own band, The Color Fred, was opening for, and I was opening, and then I was also playing in the headliner. And this one piece of gear was not working that we all needed to use. And I was like, that was what set me over the edge.
Yeah. Oh, it's always the gear. It's always the technical. You're just like, I can't. Why?
Yeah. So that was, and then I had to like, eventually it was funny because we were rehearsing. We were sort of doing Zoom calls before, with the band rehearsing for the shows. And that band, the singer's in charge, and the other guys are, you know, younger, like we're all just trying to learn all these songs. Like, you know, originally we had to learn like 60 songs, and we cut it down to 25, I think. But they were all freaking out, and I was like, guys, we can't freak out, and we can't be nervous, or like we can't have anxiety about this, because if this isn't fun, I'm not going to do it. I was like, the only reason I play music is because I love it. I didn't get to play music for like 8 years. If this is not fun, then these 4 shows will be my last shows, and that's it. So please, let's not freak out over this. And you know, that they were freaking out because they thought we had to learn at that point it was 40 songs. And then I said, no, we're not doing that, because I'll just quit. Like, we're going to start with 20. And when we get to that, we can feel like, okay, now we can at least play a show, and then we'll go from there. And so, and ever since then, the band has been really just a fun thing. And we've been on tour the last 3 years, and we're all in a bus together, you know, camping and just, you know, having a blast. And so that's what I try to do with everything. Even if like that band, I'm not the boss, but I was still like, sorry, I'm
You're like, I gotta.
I'm making this fun, or else, you know. So,
I like that threat. This is going to be fun, or else. Yeah. I love that so much. Are there things, I'm just curious, because like I definitely, like, we're talking about like mindset and keeping it at the forefront of your mind. Do you listen to certain things or read certain things that help you stay in that mindset?
Yes. Yeah, I went through a lot of different phases. A lot of my early how to be happy. I also became obsessed with like the whole alien subject.
Yes.
And
currently doing my own revisit right now.
Yes. Yeah. So I got so deep into that I, like, you know, everyone knows Tom DeLonge from Blink-182 is like the alien guy. And I'm like, I'm so deep into this, I could tell you why I disagree with Tom, like why he's wrong about certain things, you know? And he's like talking to the CIA or something at the moment. And I'm like, no, he still doesn't get it. Like, but he's one of my long ago friends that, so I was sort of into that, and then it went to you know, the other dimensions and the idea of the higher self, and you know, watch a lot of people's near-death experiences and realize how many of them are similar, and then start to learn, you know, about why certain ones are different, because it's sort of a reflection of you. And so though, and I, you know, I've always gone at it like with the aliens. I'm like, all right, if it, just so no one thinks I'm insane, because that's like the whole reason that you can't believe in it, because you'll be crazy. My thing was always like, all right, if I find out tomorrow that it's all not true, then I'm not going to cry about it. I have one thread to like the old me that didn't know about it, and then the rest is like, okay, I'm in, tell me more. And you know, so
yeah, I mean, it's super interesting. I think if people find that weird at this point, I find it weird that they find it weird. Like,
no, it's
it's interesting. And I know you and I, when I was coming over and taking lessons and stuff too, we would talk about these kinds of things a lot. And just it is good for the brain to be curious. I think it's good for our spirits, and especially if we're creative people, it's good for us to be curious. So, I listen and read and watch all kinds of different things, just because it's like, well, let me see it from that's interesting how this person looks at it. That's interesting how this person looks at it. Right now I'm listening to the Gnostic Gospels because I'm just really curious. And, and I also been like really into Taoism because I think that is kind of just how, and that's actually what you're saying too, pretty much, like the flow of like the Wu Wei. You're just like, let me just,
yes,
go with the vibe, right? Yeah.
You're one of the most grounded people that I know, that I've known for a long time. And we come from, let's just say, not the most grounded circle of people. Right. And I've always admired that about you. And I'm curious as to, like, is that just kind of, are you always kind of like that? Or are there things that you do to kind of keep, like, when shit hits the fan, how do you kind of regulate and keep yourself grounded and have perspective?
I feel like I learned, this is going to get into like a whole new conversation, but
Pick it up. It's good.
I've noticed that there's so much like drug problems and stuff with people in music and acting and stuff like that. And I honestly feel like it's because they're chasing the dragon, like there's no drug that can recreate like going on stage in Stockholm and 2,000 people are fucking singing words that you wrote in your bedroom when you were 18 back at you. Like that feeling is like euphoric, crazy shit. And I feel like a lot of guys in bands want that feeling all the time. So they chase it with coke or whatever, meth, anything. And I've seen like how fucking dangerous that is. So I just learned to like turn it on and off like a light switch. Like, we just played Punta Cana the other day to fucking couple thousand people. And then I know just when I get home, like I got to take the trash out and just, like that's it, like, cause it's fucking cool to be in a random island in the Caribbean and have, again, seeing people like that know everything about your band and stuff. And, you have to just be appreciative of that, and then know when to just come home and be a regular guy. And being a dad helps too.
I was just gonna ask you. I was like, but not everybody. There's a lot of dads out there, and they're not necessarily getting that message, right? Like, but yeah, probably. I mean, you were how old when you first became a dad?
Super young, 27, something like that.
Okay, yeah,
maybe even younger. Yeah, no, about 26, 27, I think. And that definitely, I think, saved my life because I was definitely going down that path. I moved to LA because like you had, especially back then, you had to. Like I got so sick of flying there like every week. I'm like, what the hell am I doing? I got to just move here because everything is happening here. And then it's so just easy to fall into the LA trap of like, oh, there's a fucking thing at the Henry Fonda tonight. You gotta get and I was definitely drinking my ass off every night, mixing it with drugs. Like I never got too gnarly with it, but I was definitely on the road to ruin. And then finding out like, holy shit, I have a little human that depends on me soon, I gotta not fuck up. That definitely saved me from going down the path that most guys in rock bands do.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like most guys in your position you're very unique in that sense. Like there are some people like Fred's another person, very grounded, very like, seem to really be connected with what you're doing from your soul and not doing it for just the chasing the dragon of like, everyone sing to me while I'm on stage. I'm amazing. Yeah. I'm a god, whatever, I just have like amazing gratitude that I could still do this after 25 years and, people still are into what we're doing. And like, I just like,
I can't say thank you enough to people that, have followed us for so long and make it so that I could keep doing this without having to get some job, and that's another thing. Like, I'm happy with playing, the 700 seater in Philly, just we played the fucking TLA in 2000 and we'll probably do it next year. I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
I've never tried to chase after playing arenas and stuff. I don't give a fuck. As long as I can make it work and, pay my bills, and people that's like another double-edged sword about like I was saying, like CKY doesn't sound like anything. It's like we don't sound like anything. So we never fit into any kind of genre or trend or anything. Like people don't know what the fuck to do with us when we play festivals. We played the hardcore stage, the rock stage, the metal stage, the punk stage, so that's tricky. But at the same time, we don't sound like anyone else, and it's timeless. And that's why I think we're able to be around for 25 plus years. It's a cult audience,
Yeah.
I can't
They're
ever
the best.
see having some fucking radio hit or something.
No, your fans are the best. They were back when the Moxie was around. They were very good to us as well, and I a lot of gratitude. Oh yeah.
What's really trippy on the last few tours is we've bridged generations now. There's like OG fans bringing their teenagers.
Oh my god,
that's so fucking cool to see. And sometimes it's reverse. Teenagers bringing their parents, And I do that. I take my kids to Clutch, and then they take me to Pierce the Veil.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I love that you are committed to the staying positive, and I guess I'm curious how you stay positive. Like, do you have certain, I know for me, I try to limit things. I try to know what's going on just enough to know that another COVID is not happening or something.
Yeah.
And if I need to sign a petition or call or whatever I got to do, and then I got to make a bubble of I go into nature. I have other teachers that I listen to who help a good mindset. What do you do?
So for me, and it's something I'm working on. I'm trying to not come from a place of fear. There's a conversation I've had with my therapist quite a bit. And, instead of dang, this can happen if I do this, I look, from a fearful place. It's like, man, if this happens, I can learn from this. I can build from this. I can grow from this. Right. Instead of being scared of it, embrace it. Right. So for me, I'm very big on trying to just embrace whatever comes to me. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I do have my things that I do. You know what I mean? I'm big on video games. I love video games. You know what I'm saying? So, video games are but I'm not a crazy video game player. I'm not what is it? I'll play maybe under an hour a day. You know what I'm saying? I'm a very casual gamer.
Reasonable consumption. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And it's just to get my mind, calm, because we take in so much, man. We take in so much information in a day, from social media, TV, people we meet, people that go to work and they got to deal with, what they do at work, or, there's so much information that's coming in. I truly believe everybody needs a healthy outlet to come down, you know what I mean? And reset. The other thing is sleep. Sleep is super important. I used to be a night owl. And I found that it just isn't healthy. You know what I mean? Some of the most successful people sleep at least 6 to 8 hours a night. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's important. And, it's important not to undersleep, and it's important not to oversleep. You know what I'm saying? It's important to stay in that 6 to 8 hour range. You know what I mean? So that's what I aim for. If I don't, I make sure I get a nap in for the day. You know what I'm saying? Because rest is super important for our brains to reset, for us to make smarter decisions, for our emotions to be better controlled. You know what I mean? So it's a lot, and I know it sounds like a lot, but when it becomes a routine and this is how you live, you know what I mean? It's not as bad. You know what I'm saying?
No, I think it's beautiful. I think those are really really good staples, like you said, having an outlet and sleep.
Yeah.
And you think of like a baby who needs to sleep and they're just like crying and cranky.
Yeah.
And you're like, I see babies sometimes like
You
that.
need
And I'm
to
like, I
sleep.
know. I'm
Yep.
like, I need a nap. I feel like that on the inside.
Yeah,
You
for
know,
real.
like, yeah, I'm like, I don't want to feel like that later. No, I think it's important. I think, again, like if you live kind of a different life, right? Like a more unconventional life, or if you live a super like standard where you have a 9 to 5, and those things are not really built in our
Yeah.
culture for, we hear like self-care, but it's really just foundational care, right?
Yeah.
Even you're saying
Yep.
the therapist, like I'm talking to my therapist later today, like those
Yeah.
things are really
Yeah.
important. Having,
Absolutely.
just the kind of environment, right? We've got to create an environment for ourselves, and it is really up to us to create that environment as
It
best.
is. Yep.
And we can't always control those things, right? But the biggest piece of it, I think, is when we stay aware of what we need or what is calling out to us in that moment. Maybe we can't get the full 8 hours that we want. Can we at least get 6 and then take a nap later? Let's
Yeah.
just be aware that you should schedule that in so that
Yeah.
everything else is easier and feels more
Yeah.
manageable. It's like,
Yeah.
sometimes I think being an adult is just like reparenting yourself,
Yeah.
right? Like
It is.
figuring out
It is.
like, how would I handle this if I was a little me right now who needs a nap?
Oh.
Or needs to just like
Yeah.
play a game. I know that's why I train. We, my soon-to-be husband and I, we both do jujitsu, and like I teach,
Okay.
and so we both teach, and so the teaching is fun, the training is fun. I always wanted brothers, so I feel like I have like 40 brothers. I get to beat
That's
up.
dope. That's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So for me, like, we hustle our runs all day long,
Yeah.
and then it's like we go train. I put my phone
Yeah.
down. You just are with
Yeah.
your people, and
Yeah.
and it's like anytime if somebody's listening to this and they're feeling like out of balance with that, like
Yeah.
it's figure out where you can play more, whether it is some kind of play. It doesn't have
Yeah.
to be structured, but it is so important for us,
Yeah, and it's got to be healthy. We got to remember that too. It's easy to go to alcohol. It's easy to go to drugs or anything like that. And it does feel like a temporary fix, but unfortunately it has a long-term effect. You know what I mean? So, if finding a vice has got to be something that's healthy. You know what I mean? And again, I'm not no saint. You know what I'm saying? I've had periods where I used to drink all the time. You know what I'm saying? And you know what I mean? It's about realizing. I remember, man, it's so funny. Because my boy, Budokai in Colorado is a recovering alcoholic. So I remember when I went to visit him, right? It was like no alcohol in the house, right? And I found myself like wanting alcohol. Like I found myself like, I had urges like I need a drink,
Yeah.
And when I realized that, I was like, I have a problem. Like this is crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm craving alcohol. So, sometimes we gotta take accountability. Sometimes we gotta, and it's not beating yourself up. It's just like, you know what? This is something that I realized this about myself. I need to work on this. I need to fix this so I can be a better version of me. You know what I mean? It's not about changing. It's just being a better version of myself.
We hear empowerment a lot when it's in reference to women because there's been a lot of disempowering things that have happened.
Yes.
And to just make the decision and commitment to yourself that you are going to call back your power is a huge first step.
Yeah. I believe that's also, there's so much. It's not even just, being disempowered, but I believe that with our society today, with all of the demands and all of the expectations of how we're expected to show up in our everyday responsibilities, sometimes there can be an overwhelm that happens there. And from that overwhelm response, right, there is those feelings of disempowerment that happen, that disconnection that happens with self. And when we also talk about empowerment, it's also a reclaiming of yourself as well, right? It's a reclaiming of who you are, what are all the aspects of you, your own personal sovereignty. And I think that oftentimes with so much external factors that are going on in the world, there is this disconnection that happens, and this idea of like, question of, well, where am I going? Who am I? How can I even move through this world in the way that I want to completely authentically and empowered as self. And it's a reminder that yes, we can move through this space and time in a completely authentic, completely sovereign state of our own personal wants, desires, dreams, and beliefs, and feel empowered by that. And that's a part of that too, is creating that belief and that realignment of, well, what is it that I want? Because so oftentimes when we think about what do I want, there is this label of selfishness that is put on that, right? And there is a level of selfishness, but it's a level of selfishness that is meant to be looked at. Right? Because it is about the self. We're here to live and walk our own purpose in this world. And so often with all of these external factors is trying to disconnect us from that part of who self actually is. And when we come back to those places of the natural realms of working with herbs, with working with crystals, which are all things that were put here on this earth for us, right? And we have that safe space where we can land and we can just breathe and we can feel again, right? Oftentimes I meet people that don't even know what that is, how they're feeling, because they're so disconnected from the idea of self and body and soul and connecting the mind with self. And it's this place where we come back to the inward parts of ourselves, and we really get to explore and we get to be in those spaces and re-empower ourselves from there too.
When we're present with ourselves and when we can find gratitude in the day to day, and we're not worried about what's to come, and we're not harping on the stuff that's in the past, we feel better. And there is a neurological component to that. When we're focused on the future, that's anxiety. And that's the brain trying to figure out all the different outcomes that could emerge for you. And 99% of them will not come to pass. But if your brain feels like it can sit in each one of those moments for a little while, it becomes predictable and known. So it's calming for the nervous system, theoretically, but not in actuality. And the rumination on the past is replaying all the old things. It's like a cycle or a loop that keeps going on repeatedly. And you get stuck in the past and it feels like you can't move forward. And most of us, not everybody, and hopefully not you and I, but sometimes we go into those spaces more readily. Mm-hmm. And when you can just be here, listening to this, hearing the sound of our voices, feeling yourself in a chair or on a walk, or if you're going for a walk in nature in the mornings and listening to bird song and hearing, animals scurry about, feeling the wind on your face, it makes a difference because it just puts you here. And that is the most calming place for your neurology, for your body, for your energy as a whole. If you could just be present for a little while every day, gratitude makes that so much easier. Your life will be better without having to change anything else.
So beautiful and so true. And I think I know for me, I'll say that it was, I felt that I wasn't doing it right? Like, I think that's a common thing. Like, I don't feel like I'm being present correctly a lot. So, or like, I didn't give it long enough today. I felt a moment of it. And the way that I think that I talk to myself, at least, is that I try to just remind myself that, like, even a few of those, like, just even if it's a moment, that moment really is, when we talk about time isn't real, right? That's when I think of that, right? If I find that moment where I'm able just to like get present for even just a fraction of a second, it really shifts everything. And it makes everything else feel like more, there's context for things in a different way. It puts things in perspective. And I know for me, I'm the kind of person who by default would look at things way too close. And this is why I love like animal totems. So I would say I would have mouse vision and I would be like on the ground of the earth. I'm looking at everything so detailed and forgetting that there's a bigger picture. And so that's why I love the birds of prey and the birds in general. They remind me to look at things from farther away and really get that expanded vision. And that really, even if that's just a second, and hopefully I, try to get there a couple times, but it's enough. I feel like, and would you agree with that?
Yeah, and this is funny that we're having this conversation because I'm actually in the process of writing another book. And I know it's not the right time to do anything because it's Mercury retrograde, but I love a challenge.
Yes.
My agent was like, give me some chapters yesterday. So I've been writing furiously for like the past week. And yesterday I kind of finished up my chapter 1, and I have a whole section in it about how sometimes we as people are looking at things too close up, kind of like looking at a painting, but your nose is up against it.
Yep.
And it's when you get a bird's eye view, when you can stand back from it, and you can see the entire painting, that you go, oh, duh, there it is. And
There
it makes
it is.
total sense.
Yes, yes. I love that so much. Part of my like mission here, and it's self-serving for sure, but I know there's other people out there who want to hear from people who followed their path. I know I get inundated with stories. It's like, I just like committed to my dreams, and then like I did some, meditations and I'm blocked or whatever. And then now it just happened, right? Like it just, everything fell into place. And there are times where things fall into place. But they're like, at least in my experience, right? You get like some breadcrumbs of like, okay, you're going the right direction. Things are moving. And maybe this is from being a martial artist, but I know for me, a lot of times the blocks that I run into, the walls that I run into are more, I tend to interpret them more as something to get stronger and get more skill, like develop the skills about, and unless it really feels like a wall. And that can be a little tough sometimes to decipher. When is it like, do not go this way? And when is it like I always think of things like video games, like you need a few more things to pass this level, right? Like you need to collect a few more, whatever. And you were sort of saying that about in the beginning when, you went to pursue this path, and it's like, okay, it's hard no matter what. You have a lot of expectations there. And yeah, like it probably, how long did it kind of take for things to get into a groove where you went, okay, I think we're still building, but like we got to the first like landing or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, in some ways I'm still there. I mean, to be honest, like, it's because I think, when you really care about something and you're passionate about it, there's always this drive to kind of want to do more, touch more people, that kind of thing. And so there's always behind that, beside it, whatever, there's always this like, okay, but, should I push this way? Should I push that way? Should I fall back a little bit? Am I doing too much? Am I not doing enough? I think when you really care about something, you're constantly questioning the best ways of going about it. I don't doubt myself. I mean, I probably do at some point, but it's not about doubting myself. It's about wondering if I'm doing things in the best way right now, and so probably like initially it probably was a good 2 or 3 years before I felt like, not that this was a good decision, but this was a decision that I'm going to be able to turn into something real, and I'm seeing like the fruits of labor here, and we're touching people's lives, and you start to get. It takes a while before you have the opportunity to have enough people come through that then can come back to you at some point with a story about how you affected, their lives, no matter how small it was, or it may seem. It was a big deal for them to come and tell you about it, and so those kinds of things take time to kind of accumulate. And once that started happening, it was like, okay, this is why I started this. And this is, I feel like I'm doing the right things and moving in the right direction.
That's an amazing marker. I love that. I think, that's been like kind of one of my things that carries me through in terms of, I forget what like the actual saying is, but like to touch a life in general is I think it's an Emerson quote. My mom had it in our house, but it was a whole thing. But basically the point of it was if you've touched a life, then you have succeeded.
I think just so much of the work that the internal work that I've done this past year is dealing with fear. And I didn't realize that fear was such a big motivator in my life, and on paper I do really scary things all the time. I fight people, and I like kind of crazy sports, and I travel by myself. Like, I do a lot of things that on paper are kind of scary, but so many of the decisions that I've made surrounding like my lifestyle and my person have been motivated by fear, and I want to control everything. And so acknowledging that I'm afraid, acknowledging that I can't control everything, like the brave perfectionist in me doesn't like to hear those things, but letting go of that and allowing myself to be afraid has allowed me to make a decision that I think deep down I did want to make.
And I see what's happening now is this huge personal development movement is, I think, an important piece of this. But it's not just, us watching like our other people's podcasts and doing all these different things. It's us investing time and energy into our own development and our own growth. And the sooner we do that, the better. And I'll say this, Greta, and that, it's very difficult in our 20s and into our 30s to do that. It is very difficult because there's so much external static going on around us all the time. And I don't think that we're mature enough to handle it all the time. I know in my 20s, I wasn't.
I was not. No.
Right? There's no way, it's like,
I thought I was.
Yeah. But I think we all think we are.
Yeah. I was like, I got this. And I was like, no.
Yeah. And that's the cool thing about whatever iteration of business you want to develop, whatever new thing you want to do, it's never too late. As long as the message is correct. And again, I keep going back to this, how you serving other people. But now you got to serve yourself. I mean, you got to do that because there are people that will serve others and then they will not, they're falling apart as they do it because they don't serve themselves. So I really believe that for me, the top three things, and people may not disagree, may not agree with this order. I think it's health, relationships, and then career. Career is a distant third. And it really is. Because if you're not healthy, you're in big trouble. And if you're not healthy, your relationships fall apart. If you don't pay attention to relationships, everything falls apart. And careers last. And it's unfortunate that a lot of people, it's the other way around. They go career, then they go, and then in a distant second and third are relationships and health, which it blows me away. And you get it. When you have a health crisis that's chronic, you know exactly what I'm talking about and how it does affect relationships so greatly. So, that's where I think our society is. But I do think there's a reset. I do think people are rebuilding kind of their foundations, which is so important.
The other thing that I find often when we're talking about like fear and anxiety is that like we create these like hurdles of fear and anxiety in front of us. And what our acceptance commitment therapy says, our brains are storytelling machines. And so our brain's going to be really good at trying to protect us in an upside down way from going over that hurdle, right? Mm-hmm. And so we have this horrible story of what's going to happen. And I think that the percentage right now is 91.2% of the things that we worry about never come true. And when people actually go over the thing that scares them over that hurdle and they look back, they're like, oh, that wasn't that bad at all. And to remember those moments for like, this is going to be fucking scary, but if I can get over this, historically, it's always been, oh my God, my brain told me something so much scarier than it happened. And I did it. And so, yeah, I think that all of these things are important.
Yeah, I think exactly. Like, and I think especially as people become, this is why I wanted to kind of harp on this part, because I think I see so much like from when we started doing all of our energy and spirituality and all that, and like those who came before us, right, who really paved the way for us to be able to get into it. And then now here we are. And our culture has gotten somewhat more compassionate in some senses. There's like circles of like, I shall hold space for you. I'm a safe space. And also having that Sadiqa kind of vibe. Like I remember when I was like, I feel like I'm going to throw up and pass out. And I told this story in one of my episodes, but I told it because, I was trying to, and I did, I was like, and she goes, well, if you throw up, we'll clean it up. And if you pass out, you'll wake up. And I was like, oh, all right.
It was so great.
And it, I felt in the moment, I was kind of like, you don't understand, but I understood what she was, because for me, because of my martial arts background, I saw it as a martial arts thing. Like, yeah. I was like, oh, right. I just got to like, not toughen up. It's not that. It's just that you're stronger. Like you're letting the bullshit get in the way. And, and we'll know if there's a real scenario that needs to like be addressed, but like, that's not it, And I think what I'm trying to articulate is that as we become more compassionate and safe spaces for each other, and this kind of mindset of like highly sensitive or sorry, as I'm highly sensitively feeling this hair just in
Get it
my,
out, get it out.
it was just like, boop. It's still there. All right. Resiliency. I shall not pay attention to it. It's fine.
Hair be gone.
So, as we learn how to have that other side of things, also helping each other maintain our strength and resiliency in those moments. So it's like being the friend in our community, let's just say, like our friends and all of that, as we show up, to also reflect back to them, like, you got this though. Like, yes, this is really overstimulating and I'm here for you, and we'll figure out however to help you like do that. And if you need like quite whatever, but like, don't let it stop you from the thing that is calling you, because the world, there's so much bullshit out there that will try to get in your way in that sense. And some days it does, and that's fine. And then some days you're like, I'm going to just keep going. And I think that's the evolution that kind of was missing. Like, that's where I love to think of it that way, at least, that, before we grew up in a society and culture where it was just like, especially go and do it, like fucking, and then now I see a lot more like gentler, like vibes coming through. And I hope to see those two come together, because if it's too gentle, then you're just like protecting bubble, don't ruin my vibe.
No,
But
you won't grow.
You won't grow. And there are people who need your vibe and who need you to get through that, so they can also benefit from the healing, right? Like, if we just stay in our little bubble, then we're not going to be able to help our community at large, because we're not getting outside of our bubble.
For anybody who's heard about shadow work before, I want to just clear up what it is from like its oldest roots that we can find evidence of, and even beyond that. That way it makes sense going forward. So in the late 1800s, early 1900s, Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud were like the fathers of psychotherapy. And Sigmund Freud was Carl Jung's mentor, and he was trying to coax Jung into doing all the things that he was doing and get him to think the same way. Because at that time, there wasn't research. Nobody was like, let's study this and see how this empirical data can tell us. They were like, I have a great idea, and I'm going to try it on 50 unwilling people. And we're just going to see how it goes. And if it works, I'm going to write a paper about it. Everybody's going to love it. And that was how psychotherapy really began. And as crazy as that sounds, and how lacking in empirical data it was, there was some stuff that came out of that time that was spot on. So we all know about Freud and his work with, the ego. We talk about the ego all the time in the spiritual community. And we talk about the conscious mind, the subconscious, which is the stuff that's just below the surface, and the unconscious, which is the stuff that is super buried and hidden away from you. When Carl Jung came onto the scene to work with Freud, that was all done. Freud had already decided on all those things, and he was writing papers and starting his own school of thought. Carl Jung took some of his ideas and was like, I can do more with this. I can make a name for myself. And he started looking into the unconscious mind. So he would work with his patients and try to regress them to the point, like sort of like in a deep, deep meditative state, to get them to remember things that they hadn't remembered before. So he was doing that, and he called the unconscious mind the shadow. That was his rebrand so that he could slap his name on something.
Nice.
And then shadow work was the process of doing that deep meditative work to get them to remember things they'd forgotten. And during those sessions, things would come up that clients were like, I don't remember that ever happening to me. And then they'd talk to their older siblings or their mom and dad and siblings were like, you don't remember like drowning in the lake and like so-and-so got you out of there? Yeah, that absolutely happened.
Wow.
So he was getting enough feedback from people that it was like, oh my God, I fact checked this and this is legit, that he started running with these concepts. So now in 2025, the psychotherapy community has rebranded shadow work again, and they've called it something else, but they're actually doing research around it. There's a section of psychotherapy called internal family systems. Sounds super friendly.
Yeah.
And there's a piece of it called parts work, and parts work is shadow work. And during that, what they're doing is they're regressing people to the point where they can bring up those repressed memories through theta brainwave state. and watch as we break down the system within your mind, because we can break down old neural pathways, which is like the ways you see the world. And when it's done in that capacity, your eyes are open. And what the therapist is looking for is to see your eyes start to vibrate. Because when they do that, it actually means an old neural pathway in the brain is breaking down. So they're looking for this. I know.
That gives me
it's wild.
chills. That's crazy. That's
Yep.
so
So now we have the research to back up this super old thing. So now that I got that out of the way, in TikTok and all these other places, everybody's talking about shadow work, and they're rebranding it and making it kind of cutesy and easy for everybody to do, because shadow work is scary and we can make it friendly and something that feels approachable. And they're calling it journaling and like mirror work and reflections. And yeah, all those things are awesome. And they're like precursors to getting into shadow work. But by definition, shadow work is being in that deep meditative state so that you can access unconscious memories when you're in theta. And when you open the door to those and you bring them into the conscious mind, you work to change how your body remembers them. Because our body, if anybody's read The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk, our body keeps a score. Your body literally remembers the trauma. So when you remember drowning in a lake at 2 years old and someone coming in and saving you, you might start shivering. You might have your heart racing out of your chest. You might find you have sweaty palms. You might start to have brain fog. So when we bring the memory up, we want to calm the body down. So we change the way you're breathing. We change the way you're thinking about it. We remind you that you are totally safe and everything is fine. That is shadow work.
I was on birth control for, a long time, like a lot of women are. And I went on, my IUD expired, so I went off of it. And I remember like the first time I got a period in like 8 years, I was like so angry about it and horrified. I was like, this is going to be my life for the rest of my life, having this like the cycle and this anger and like the depression. And it's gotten a little better with like some good nutrition and stuff. But we were in Mexico, and I remember standing there at dusk, because I also like dusk, watching the waves come in and seeing the moon start to come out and the waves, and just this like understanding of like, okay, this is what my hormones do and my emotions do every month. Like, if nature can sync with this cycle and, be captivated by it, like I can let this go a little bit. But, yeah, in high school, I didn't eat enough, and if I started to get a period, I could go on a hard run and it would go away. And I was like so proud of that. It's like, I'm never going to have a period. And so I think I had 4 all of high school. Like I was not super healthy, and but that was like a badge of honor. I like didn't want to have all the things that came with being a woman. I remember like praying to God that I wouldn't get boobs, because I wanted to just like be tough and masculine and fit in with the bros at my gym,
Right.
And so, yeah, learning to like be in tune with my body and understand that it's like a healthy thing for me to have these cycles and how your hormones and emotions work. It was, very interesting.
Yeah, it's I think I was on birth control for like 15 years, and when I got off of it, my cycles were whack, so
Horrible.
whack. It was like I would have it for a month and then wouldn't have it for like 4 months, and it was like, oh my god. And then having a mom as an OBGYN with that.
It's a whole other layer.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I actually like I know, sorry for the gentleman. I always say sorry for the gentleman, but actually I'm saying
They're
don't worry
fine.
about it. Because the thing is, you all have women in your life, and it's good for you to understand, like,
to learn about
you did learn about like that. Yeah. Right. And I think that when it goes back to the being a bitch thing for me, that we do as women, we're taught to just be like, and like be agreeable as much as, not as much as possible. It's better nowadays, but
it's still there, though.
It's still there. It's like, just be cool. Like, make sure people are like comfortable, whatever. And so you do that all month long, and then you feel like shit. And it's like, it's as if let's just say you have a cold or like a flu or something, and you're supposed to just be like, that doesn't bother me at all.
I'm fine.
I'm fine. And then really you just want to like punch a hole in the wall or something, whatever. You just want to cry or eat something or do the things. Yeah, I shared in one of the podcasts some of the plants that have like changed my life, and Vitex Chase Tree is like
been it helped regulate my cycle. It's for most women it works. If somebody has, I always say it's caution because I did have a friend who experienced this, but if somebody has like pretty intense like bipolar, then it can be like a little bit aggravating. It can be, but for the most part, like for across the board, it's one of those things. If you just take it from your ovulation up until your cycle, so like 2 weeks leading up to it, you have a really nice easy peasy cycle. Like you don't get the tenderness or like want to yell at somebody and then your cycle's like pretty chill. And obviously it takes some time for it to like, you know, accumulate. Yeah. But it's one of those things that has that. And I usually do a tarot reading. That's kind of how I do. And it doesn't have to be tarot. It's just questions. I like tarot. I'm very, I use the world as, analogies, right? Like, I'm like, oh, this reminds me of the waves, right? Same thing. You look at something and you see how you kind of, this is why the podcast is thought experiment, right? It's a thought. You're like, how do I feel when I see X, Y, or Z? But I'll do a series of questions of like, you know, what have I let go of this month? Or what do I feel like I should be like focusing on this month? Or how have I shown up for myself? Or just, it can be whatever questions, you know, but a few questions to just kind of check in with yourself. And this is why like I love doing moon cycle things. It doesn't have to be, it can be as mystical and magical as you want, or it can be as practical as I check in every month and go like, how's it going, you know, with yourself. And I think that when we do that, it really just helps, you know, it's like going back to jiu-jitsu, basically like the stripes and checking in on your progress and being gentle with yourself and having that awareness, you know. And I think that we're really lucky as women to have that. Unfortunately, a lot of times it's so painful or disruptive that it's hard to even take that time. But if it is a painful period, if it is a long one, or if it's not there, you know, any kind of looking at like, how can we show up for ourselves in a cyclical way?
I wanted to just shift a little bit to more of the side of things of your, as we were talking earlier, like something that I find so beautiful about you that I really want to share with everybody. And I'm obviously going to have you on more because we could talk for a long time.
Yeah.
But the practice of your commitment to your vision, kind of no matter what external factors are going on, you have, so even if you have to shift and change things, you have this commitment to your vision and to yourself and to your heart in a way that is very unusual for most people. So like, I don't know if you realize how special that is. I'm gonna tell you, it's very special. Okay. It's very special. I've only met a few people who are like that, especially people who are younger. Like it's something I feel that I've seen more in people who have lived a long time and just kind of have like an understanding of the cycles of life. It'll happen. This is what's going to happen, you know, not this is what's going to happen, but like everything will kind of sort itself out, you know? And since I've known you, you know, you've had a bunch of things come up where you had to like, it's like I always use the example of the sailboat. So you're on a sailboat, you know, you're going that way, but like you may have to go around that. You have to just shift your sails. So you got to like, whoop, go over here for a minute. And you've always been so good at that. And I just kind of wanted you to speak on it a little bit because it is something that's really special. Like were you always like that? Did you find a time where you went, okay, this is the vision that I have, especially with Prana? Because Prana is more than your shop. Prana is just like what the container that you've created. It's a whole vibe. It's not like a place.
She's an entity all in herself.
She's an entity.
Sometimes I feel like all in herself sometimes.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of just I'm the groundskeeper of Prana in some way.
The steward. Yeah.
Yes, the steward of Prana.
Yeah.
To be honest, I feel like I really don't know where it came from. It could just be something that was instilled in me, and the idea of, you know, working always for what you want. I was very lucky that my mother, she was always the individual that was like, you can do whatever it is that you want to do when you put your mind to it. And so I'm very grateful for that because she did give me that space to know that if we put our minds to and our belief in something and we work towards that something, we have the power and capacity within ourselves to create that. And so for her, I'm very grateful because she did instill that in me. I think also too, there is this level within me that says, you know, I'm a visionary. That could be the Aquarius side of me. And then also I'm a Pisces rising. So it's all about, this dream state and cultivating something that's outside of the regular norm.
That makes total sense. I think I think, you're saying you have one thing that's really notable is that you are looking at challenges as part of the path, which I think is something that could be modeled for our society in general. I think a lot of times people see the challenge comes up and it's like, and I do think I've talked about this with a couple other people where sometimes we do have to go, okay, is this challenge a wall or is it a hurdle? And you gotta but what you're also saying is that you're very mindful of the process. You're staying mindful of your path as you go.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we set a goal, maybe when we're younger, we set this goal, we're as clear as we can be at that time. We start going that way. Things start happening. And if you're not staying present with your goal, you might not have realized how it's shifted so that the universe and God, whatever's trying to hey, did you check this? Do you still want to do it this way? And sometimes those things come up where we have to stop and go, is this still the way that I want to go? Is this still the path? Is it part of the path or is it on the way, so being mindful of that and allowing yourself to have the ability to reflect on what it is you actually want to still do. Yeah. So I'm hearing that so much too. Yeah. I mean, you're very mindful with your practice and committed to it. And I think that is a testament to the way that you look at things, right? Like to be able to stay present as life changes and reevaluate goals, because just because we make a goal or have a dream in our heart and all of those things, if you find yourself wanting to do it differently or not do it at all, but sometimes I think it helps to hear somebody say hey, you actually don't have to do that thing anymore. You could do it differently if you want, and you're allowed to change your mind. Now, yes, if you're changing your mind every 3 months, maybe you want to
you change your underwear. Yeah. No.
Yeah. You might want to ground in a little bit more than that and give it more of a chance to grow. But, sometimes you have a couple changes and then you settle on the thing that you're like, all right, this is the goal. But it takes that mindfulness and reflection. And
I think for me, it was more of what feels right in my heart, right? I want to live a life where I can say at the end of the day, I follow the pursuit of my own happiness, right? I follow the pursuit of what my joy is, no matter how much the challenge may have been in that pursuit. But sometimes challenges, we look at it like it's an overwhelming thing and a thing that we're like, oh, I don't want to do it. And if it's too much of a challenge, then I'm going to let go of this idea and this dream and F it, right? And for me, it's more yes, but there's a challenge because there's always a sacrifice, right? There's a level of sacrifice that we need to put into whatever container it is that we're looking to fill up, right? And I'm I am so grateful that the challenges that I have are expressions of hard work and sacrifice that I need to create the life that I want to lead. And maybe that's a part of the drive is this sacrifice that I'm doing right now, these challenges that I'm encountering, they're all to create the space of the thing that I ultimately want for my life. And there might be wrenches that are thrown into that, but I look at those wrenches as opportunities of growth, right? Because that's really what they are. They're lessons for us. They're lessons of growth. They're opportunities for us to understand where is my weakness in this moment in time? What is the thing that I need to learn about myself here in this challenge, right? Because I'm a very firm believer that everything that the universe throws at us, it's meant for a reason or a purpose. And usually for that purpose is something to teach us for ourselves, and then also how we show up, not only for self, but then also for others, right? How am I growing here for my own personal self and container and sovereignty, but then also the container that I'm creating out there into the world? And so I feel I look at those things and I'm this is just giving me more more leverage, I guess you could say, to continue that pursuit, right? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if
I
it's
love
something just
that.
completely authentic or what, or you know, I feel like we all have the capacity and the ability to do that. It's just this understanding of like, yeah, it does require a level of sacrifice. It requires a level of commitment. It also requires a level of continuing to look back on and continuing to reassess, right? Is this really where I want to go? What about this is that I'm not liking? And then if there are things about this that, yes, I do like and bring me joy, then let's try to, you know, feed on that and make that bigger. And how is it that there are things in there that no longer fit into this container? Well, how can I filter out those things that no longer fit into that container and then reinforce the container into something that I do want it to look like, and something that is fully foundational and structured in a way that does feel good for me, right? Does that make sense?
What are some things that your parents like taught you, or like gave room for you guys to like just really be who you are, that you have passed along with your kiddos? Or have you like taken what kind of some lessons from them and tweaked it? Or have you been like, you know what, I don't know if I would do anything like you guys did it. This is what I do instead.
I definitely ripped a page out of Phil and Ape's book. Like, they encouraged whatever we were into. My dad would drive Bam to a skate park 3 hours away. You know, he'd take off work if it was like an important contest. You know, my dad would like help me pay for recording time and stuff. So yeah, I try to do that with my kids. Whatever they're into, I encourage them to be into, because you know that old saying, like, you never work a day in your life if you like what you do. And there's people I know that are rich as fuck and miserable as hell. They're making like fucking huge salaries, but they can't stand their job. So I said, yeah, whatever you enjoy doing, like, get really good at it so that people want to hire you to do it, whatever it is. And that usually works out.
I think something I like to talk a lot about with people is the decision making, like how to listen to your intuition as you're navigating this, right? Kind of when to know when you're going the right direction, and a lot of times I think that people come up across challenges, and it might be confusing as to when they need to overcome that challenge or when it's like a detour. You know,
Okay.
I like hearing different people's perspective on that, because I think everybody has a little bit of a different take with that.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think for me, it's give it your full effort. I always believe in that. Give it your full effort. Even if it doesn't feel like it's going right, do it a few times. It's kind of like a TV show, right? Like they always say, at least give it 5 episodes, right? You might not like it the first episode or 2, but give it 5 episodes. You never know, right? It's like the same thing, man. You know, I give it at least 5 tries, or I don't want to say 5 tries, but I get it a decent amount of tries, right? And if it doesn't feel right, if it doesn't feel like there's any growth, then it's time to take a new approach. You know what I'm saying? And that might not, you know, I'm not saying that's the right or wrong answer. I'm just saying that's just been my approach. You know what I'm saying? You know, but I also believe in learning from others. I'm big on learning from others. Like, I'm not the hard-headed type was like, I need to learn the hard way. No, I don't want to learn the hard way. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I seen somebody else, you know, be productive, go on a certain path, then I'm gonna study that person and I'm gonna see what they did to go down that path and be successful. You know what I'm saying? And then I'll add my own twist. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody has their own personality. Everybody is their own individual. You know what I'm saying? So I'm big on learning from others, observing others, and still making it my own. You know what I mean? I'm very, very big on that. And then also at the same time, I'm big on being me. We all are special. We are all, you know, unique. And I truly believe that I'm unique. I believe you're unique. You know, anybody I come across is very unique, and they add their own value to whatever, we come together on. So, again, another reason why I'm open-minded, right? Like, because a lot of times you might come up with an idea that I would have never thought of. You know what I'm saying? So I'm very big on embracing my uniqueness and my individuality. You know what I'm saying? For anything. So if I come up with an idea and I feel good about it, I'm gonna write it down and I'm gonna pursue it. And like I said, I'm gonna give it a few tries. I'm just gonna comment on something you said earlier too. You said sometimes we'll be in the lab and we experiment and we like to try things and stuff. I'm always that person. You know what I'm saying? I'm always that person. And then I'll let people hear it. Sometimes the people will be like, I don't know, you know what I mean? But I don't always listen to that because it's me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then now if I get like 5 or 6 or 7 out of, then it's like, okay, I'm gonna get rid of it. But
This is
we're
just
not gonna
for
work
me.
with that. Yeah. At least I did it. But ultimately, if I get maybe 1 or 2 rejections, I still might go for it because it's still me, right? And so I embrace my individuality, and I encourage people to embrace their individuality and their uniqueness as well too.
If I can't control what's happening internally, my own emotions, when I'm dealing with a problem or a potential problem, then there's no way I'm going to be able to control what the external variables are, right? So I'm really big on understanding the catalyst for what makes us react in certain ways and what makes our body do certain things. Because if I don't, then all the physical skill sets on the planet are not going to help me if I'm falling apart on the inside, and then that's manifesting itself outwardly. So I'm big on that kind of stuff, and I really wish I could see that. I can see the cover. Really wish I could think of the name of it, but
That's you can send it to me. I'll put it in the notes.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's a great. Yeah, that's like for life too, right? Like, again, like the ways, the parallels of the things that we learn that apply to life.
The thing that I tell my students probably daily is whether it's jujitsu or wrestling or self-defense or whatever, when it comes to, because we're big on problem solving, I want them to be able to figure out what to do without me having to necessarily tell them every time this is what's going to happen, because I'm not going to be there for like they need to figure it out. And it's never going to look exactly the way we map it out, So if one thing doesn't really line up, I want you to be able to problem solve and figure it out. And so like if it's jujitsu or if it's clinch fighting or whatever, one of the things that I constantly tell people is like, look, face your problems. So if they've created an angle on me, I need to face my problem. They're my problem in that moment in time. And obviously that nobody wants to hear that in life, but there's a big life parallel there too. If I'm constantly not facing my problem is, it's not going away. It's still over here. I'm just not dealing with it right now.
Right.
I mean, for jujitsu, it's a perfect example, and it's something that people can see quite readily. If somebody's passing my guard and they're moving to side control or knee on belly or whatever, and I go to face away from them, I'm going to be in big trouble real fast.
Right.
And so it's an easy thing to see and feel and visualize in jiu-jitsu and clinch fighting as well. But I think there's some massive life parallels there too.
And that's sort of a thing for me, is like, you should do that thing that you love. Like, you should write that book. You should, whatever it is. And then people are like, it's easy for you to say, but like, really, like when I was young, like I was destitute for a long time because I would not give up on that dream. And I was like, all right, 2 more months and then I'm getting a job at Walmart, like whatever it has to be. And then sure enough, within those 2 months, something happened that got me to the next month, and
Right.
And so, it's been a very long journey for me. That's what I when I say like, just follow your dream. Like I've said it earlier, like it's not going to be easy at all, but if you know that that's what you're supposed to do, then, and like, I always knew I had to take care of myself on the way. So I always had to have that stupid side job, always like some crappy job. I mean, that's why they put me in charge of the warehouse. They're like, how do you know so much about warehouses? I'm like, I've been in a food warehouse. I've been in a furniture warehouse. I've had every shitty job in this whole area. Like, I'll be able to quit and go on tour on a moment's notice. And
Right. Yeah.
But
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I think, I mean, again, that's one of my biggest, like in this podcast, I talk about all kinds of things because I obviously, I'm such a nerd for a bunch of different topics, but ultimately and that's kind of me leading by example of what I believe in is, and even if it isn't somebody's career, right, to do the thing, the expression of you, do it.
Yes.
And it doesn't have to be the most fantastical thing that's ever happened. Just pay a little bit of devotion to that calling that's within you, right? There's a piece of that, and I think that's honestly what makes me devoted to doing this, especially at this time, is because people are inundated with all of the things that are happening in the world that are just so much. And I don't post about things really anymore because I feel like we have enough of that going on. I do the things that I know that I feel like I'm doing in the world, right? Like if I'm, whatever the action steps you can take, but to remind people about that thing, like our creativity, whatever, like you said, if it's knitting, if it's skateboarding, if it's cooking, it doesn't matter, right? Like I love teaching, and that is a creative, too, right? But I never would have thought about it like that. But, I think it's a way of thinking. I think it's a part of our brains that really needs attention and love. And when we're all stressed out about the world and although these things are happening, they're not always happening in front of us, right? So we have to have that separation of the things that we can do, but the things that are not in front of us, the well-being of the people of the world, right? And then the things that are right in front of us. It is so important for us to contribute with our energy from our passions, right? So whatever that is, it's like, that's your contribution to this world. That's the thing that was placed inside of you. And even if it's not your career, and that's the other thing, people get I want to make, again, the 6 figures with my knitting company or whatever. And okay, maybe, I did well with haute couture with my jewelry, but it was a hustle and I did not have a chance to do music was calling. That was really what I wanted to do. And I loved my jewelry. I loved it so much. But I had to make that decision, okay, I really need to, I can't die and not have put my heart into music the way that I did with haute couture. I got to get this done,
Yes, 100%.
I shouldn't be surprised that so many people don't know how to say no at any aspect of their life, because as women we're taught to be submissive and happy and
polite and how are you
and polite,
comfortable.
Yeah. And it's well, of course we don't know how to say no, and scary stuff,
right.
And when there's a power dynamic that's off, not that we should have to say no in the first place, obviously. And the first thing we teach them is how to yell and say no. And it's really, really eye-opening to see these women, because we have someone approach them and they're supposed to put their hands out and say some version of no, get back, fuck you, whatever you want. Yeah. And I'm I want you to scream this. And they're all but I don't want to be rude. Right?
No, I want you to be as rude as you can be.
Be mean. Yeah. It's okay to be mean. I had someone approach me in a parking lot one time, and it was really late at night. I was walking out of King Soopers to my car, and I'm walking in my car, and this young guy starts walking really fast towards me across the parking lot. And I get my car door open, and he's right at my car door, and I should have gotten in the car and slammed it, but I felt bad because he was trying to pitch me on selling me something. But the vibe was off. The whole thing was weird. But I was so nervous at acting offensive and offending someone when he wasn't trying to be weird, that I let him talk to me.
Right.
And a compromised position. And I've forgiven myself for that, right? Not my fault at all, but really interesting to feel that desire to be a polite, nice member of society. Take over what I know in my brain was not safe.
Right.
So learning how to override that
takes practice.
Desire to be a perfect person.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a nice woman. And
right.
I don't want to be a bitch, but I should be.
Right. I wrote a paper for my Krav Black Belt, and it was "What a Bitch."
Yeah. Yes.
It was do you know the book The Gift of Fear?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I've read it.
Yeah. So I think I had just read the book, whatever, and I was like, yes, like it was so much. It's interesting with I'm so curious to hear about the approach, because as much as I love Krav, it is like, you know, it was created for the Israeli military, and like, because everybody who's a civilian has to go into the military.
Yeah.
So like it has a different origin, and yet is still self-defense when it came to the States. And I always loved that they would like, Darren Levine, the guy who brought it over from Israel. Well, there's several people, but at least the you know, whatever, worldwide. Was a ADA in LA, so he was you know, actually had access to all of the footage that was happening of people being attacked, but mostly training with dudes who are thinking about dude-centered attack kind of things, right? And Ernie, my instructor, and then his wife Anne, who I want to have on at some point, because you would love talking to her about. Teaches self-defense to constant, like that's like her mission, and she's just like powerful. And the conversations that we've had about this specifically, you know, when it comes to women, is really like, of course, there's the side of being able to just fight, right? Right. So like getting that spirit for just, you know, I look at a lot, I see like either jujitsu, self-defense, Instagram things, or other self-defense, and you're just like, but ultimately, right? Like we can, if we love to train and we want to keep training and we want to be like a little ninja, like great. But if you don't have that desire to do that, to spend that time, it's not fun to you, but you want to stay safe. It's like literally you just need to fight, right? Like have that. However, for women, it's not, I mean, of course there are so many attacks that happen from strangers, but like the conversation,
domestic.
exactly. The conversation is like, so much skipping the fact of just like you said, like the boundaries. I love that boundary setting, because there's a disconnect between that, right? Like I've trained forever, and yet I've been in very emotionally abusive relationships. I was pretty much just lucky I found emotionally abusive instead of physical abusive, you know? I'm not trying to say that flippantly. that's just kind of, you know, the mindset. I very much understand that mindset of not setting the boundaries, and being, you know, having all these martial arts skills and yet just getting like pummeled emotionally because I didn't know how to set those boundaries.
Yeah.
And I've seen it in the physical abuse sense, where like that's, you know, that's the work of the cultural side of things, of the relationships that we have, the way that we show up for each other and our friends to help identify, as I was, you know, there's like Instagram, like female friendships are like usually identifying the narcissists in your life or the red flags, right? You're like,
sure.
You're like, that's not.
Don't be with that person.
Yeah, that's really unhealthy behavior. And it's hard to talk about those things, especially if you are, you know, perceived as a strong woman. It's hard to be, you know, and like doing things well. I'll say for me, it was hard for me to acknowledge like just how extremely unhealthy of an environment that I lived in for so long, and the things that I would allow, and not know I didn't have the skills or the awareness to know that it was even unhealthy. I didn't know what was completely fucked up until I was out, really. And I was like, oh, this.
Well, yeah, if you're not taught that, like, I know. I hate that so much of the prerogative and responsibility has been placed on women to take care of ourselves, because it shouldn't be like that. It should be we fix male culture and just culture in general. But, you know, as much as we try and do that, and actually the foundation has started like a male program, which I think is really great, where they talk about all this too. But, you know, I'm not going to wait for that part of society to change. But yeah, just like learning like, oh, that's not healthy and you don't have to tolerate it. And then having the support system to help you with that, because it's one thing to know that, but then actually doing something like
to do it.
It's so hard.
It's so hard.
Yeah. And I think, you know, the reality of a lot of it too is, you know, I've trained jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai and MMA for almost 20 years for parts of it. And I could still be attacked tomorrow and not know how I'm going to react, and none of it would ever be my fault. And, you know, no matter what boundary I set, like, people still cross them. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that, and that we can't control everything around us. And that's like a hard pill to swallow, especially as someone who was raised to defend herself her whole life. Like, I don't get to control what happens, and that is one of the things that I love too, with the adding kind of like the post care if something does happen to you, like just acknowledging the fact that statistically it might, you know, but you still survive and you still get to recover. Like, whatever bad things happen in your life, there are tools to help you recover from, and just the freeing feeling of letting go of the need to control everything and knowing that there's ways to recover from everything.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think there's this want in our world to be all things to all people. And I think it's a really good way to be nothing to no one. You know, it's
Very
like,
true.
you know, it's like this muddled mess of what is your mission? What is your vision? What is it that you're trying to do? What's your goal? Who are the people you're trying to touch? What are you trying to do for them? And just roll with that. Like, be own who you are and do that, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know why that's so hard for people to do in our world.
Art, music, like filmmaking, you know, there's not really rules. And that's great news for me, because I've never been good with rules. I didn't do well at sports. Rules are not my thing.
Yeah. And directions are not my thing either. I'm like, what? Yeah. I think I definitely just like want to see people, whether, like, I feel like there's such a pressure to make something and put it out, you know, to be like, I made this, whatever. And that's cool too. Like, I love that. I love to see what people are making, or, you know, listen to what people are making. But yeah, I just, part of why I'm doing this is just really to encourage people to, because people are like, oh, I'm not creative. And I'm like, well, just let yourself like fuck around for a little bit. See whatever, make some food or sing something or just move your body. Whatever it is that you're kind of like, I want to do that, but I'm not creative, you know, letting yourself just express what wants to come out of you. I really feel like it just helps our humanity as a whole. And I still really can't articulate it as well as I'd like to, but
the weirdest part is, like, some bands that I listen to, like, they're not good musicians by any means. Just collectively, what they're doing is really interesting. And like, every time I'm like, okay, everything's fucking been done, blah, blah, blah. There's a band that shuts me the fuck up, you know, like,
yeah.
Sigur Rós from Iceland. Like, what the fuck? Again, not phenomenal musicians. The guy's playing a fucking Les Paul with a violin bow, and they record their album in an empty swimming pool. Like, and I'm like, I've never heard anything like that, you know?
Yeah.
Bands like that, you know? King Gizzard from Australia is another one. Like, what the fuck is going on? Like, their guitars are tuned like insane. Nothing about it makes sense, but it sounds awesome. You know?
That's so cool. Yeah.
And we are so hell-bent against change. And it's because of the brain. The brain likes running us at our status quo. It likes keeping us in the same place as much as possible, because if we do predictable things, we get predictable outcomes. And when we do things that are outside of the brain's comfort zone, there's no roadmap for what that's going to look like and the impact it will have on our entire neurological system. So the brain sends out warning signs, trying to get us to move away from the scary unknown things. And when we have those intuitive hits to do something bigger, to try something unconventional, the brain is not considering whether or not it's better for you. The brain is considering whether or not there is a known pathway. So when you've done shadow work or neurological work of any kind, whether it's like the somatic stuff, if it's Kundalini, if it's a ton of Reiki, if it's all your journaling, whatever it is, when the brain sends out those warning signs, you've done enough work on yourself to have the warning sign come in at a lesser degree, where it feels like it's like kind of giving you a scolding, but it's not screaming at you. And you can talk back to yourself and kind of go, I hear you, but I'm going to do this anyway. So yeah, I think all these healing modalities can help with that massively.
Mhm.
And I think the generation of people who are coming up now are going to have a much easier time with that because I feel like millennials are so traumatized. There's so much that's happened. So many dark nights of the soul, so many horrible things that we actually are almost too comfortable with trauma and we're used to it.
Yes, girl. Oh my God. Yes. I mean, that's especially coming from you and all your expertise. It's really nice to hear you say that. It's very like validating. And I'm sure people listen and you're like, you know what? Thanks. I really just needed that to be acknowledged. I think and I think societally speaking, everybody, you know, we see so much happening right now. And yeah, it's like everybody is really going through it. And it's kind of unspoken in a lot of ways. And we're all just like putting out little social media things like,
are you guys good?
Yeah. How's everyone?
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, the amount, like personally, the amount of growth from, you know, all the things that I've experienced in my life and having chronic health issues and stuff like that, that really shifted my life path as well. And then all of the world. But like you said, I wouldn't wish it on anybody. And I'm grateful. I'm so grateful. I'm somebody that I'm proud of and somebody that I can trust myself to show up for myself even when things get really tough. And that wasn't something that I started with. And I think that's the invitation, right? You know, is to go through something and, you know, I've seen many times people will fold and that's it, or they go through a thing and they rise. And granted, we have those options. They keep coming up. We have those opportunities to fold and rise over and over and over again. But I find when we take the constructs of life out and just go to like the meaning of life, I really love Viktor Frankl so much. And when I was going through like the hardest times, and granted, I was for sure using some of this just to cope with things I shouldn't be coping with. However, it did teach me a way of thinking that also helped me to find joy and presence in my life. And really it was, if nothing changes, right? Like if I can't change anything about my circumstances, this is before my relationship now, but my, you know, relationship, my home, my life, my everything, whatever, my health, everything, you know, how can I find meaning and happiness and some joy in this? How can I find that, you know, because there is a way to find it. It's not going to look what I like what I thought it would look like. But it really shifted me so much to be able to walk through times in my life that I didn't feel like walking through, you know, that I just felt like crumbling, and just kept that sentiment in mind. Like, how do I find my peace here in some way? It might be chaos all around me, but is there some way I can find just a little bit of peace, which is one of the reasons I walk in nature all the time. That's my church. I still get nervous to do things and still go like, I have no fucking clue how I'm going to do this thing. But I've done it enough to know that if I don't stress and strain about it, but just show up and just, when I say do my best, I don't mean like do my best. I just mean like, just be intentional. That's what I mean.
Totally.
To be intentional. And whatever that is the best that's going to happen at that moment. And I'm almost always, I'm surprising myself and things work out better than they did, or, you know, it's not as scary. It's like so much more easeful. It takes that pressure off.
And also, or funny happens. Like, I feel like some of the stuff I've done, like the scary things I've done, like the funniest, weirdest, goofiest story comes from it.
Yes. Yeah. And I wouldn't be, you know, like, I wouldn't be who I am had I not said yes to things that scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, well, I mean, we live in a society that I don't know where I read this, but like we're basically like floating heads at this point. We are so detached from our bodies that physical, and you know me, like I've always hated working out. I'm like, this is so dumb. But I went with a friend to Pilates and I was like, this is terrible. And it has been life-changing and brought me back into my body. And, you know, the body keeps the score for a lot of trauma. So doing physical activities can be really helpful for the release of trauma, the release of just excess energy if you're ADHD. Like, it can just getting to know your body, since we're not taught to know our bodies. Like, we literally are just floating heads.
Yeah.
that there's just so much benefit to that.
And training, like you said, going to Pilates, like same thing with training I'm such a huge advocate and obviously martial arts, but things like Pilates, something that makes you have to dig deep in a way that is building. If you have the right community around you that helps you, like Kundalini was a good example too. If you've got the right teachers who can take you to the place you don't want to, it's like little ego deaths. So you're just going through little ego deaths and you're just
Totally.
like, you know, so
I would love to go back and take with her again. She was an incredible, what was her name? She was an incredible teacher.
Sadika Salter. Yeah, she was. She helped me, especially during that time. Like I was so sick with Lyme disease when we did that. And I was like, I don't want to be outside of this bubble. And truth, you know, I was not ready to be pushed outside of the bubble, but she reminded me, because I hadn't been training at all for that time. And she reminded me of my strength. And I was like, oh, right. I'm like, I used to kick some ass. I'm going to fucking go do that. So, you know, like when we have those ego deaths, right, it just really helps shift things back into perspective. And whether you're doing martial arts or something physical is really important, I think, for those things. Because again, we're talking about, especially if you're like us and you're like super esoteric, right, and existential, you need something to physically ground you back down. And whether, you know, and again, obviously being in nature is a huge part of that. And also in nature, you can get real flirtatious real quick. If you're like us, you're just like, you know, so sometimes, you know, doing those physical practices helps us just be like, oh my God, my body though, you know, and especially if you get to be the person on top who's like, fuck,